Last minute free kick. Prime Ronaldo, prime David Beckham. Who are you picking up?
Prime David Beckham.
There has never been a redemption story in football quite like his. A man who went from having his effigy burned in the streets of London to being knighted by the King of England. A man who turned the worst night of his career into the fuel for everything that followed. This is the story of David Beckham, who turned humiliation into the greatest career in football history.
The time for Manchester United with Beckham!
Gulyev səhvə vermişdi. Hakim bildirir ki, Beckham oyundan kənar vəziyyətdə.
David Beckham, el golpeo de David Beckham, golazo del inglés!
Take a look at this moment. David Beckham is walking off a football pitch, red card in hand, head down, 23 years old, and as he disappears down the tunnel, tears streaming, unable to stop them, the Argentine team bus drives slowly past him. Players inside are banging on the windows, laughing at him. That moment didn't just mark his lowest point, it was the day the world decided his career was already over. That is where his story starts. To understand how far he fell, you need to understand exactly how high he was before it. David Beckham was born on May 2, 1975, in Leytonstone, London. His parents were die-hard Manchester United fans. By age 14, he was inside United's academy, and the group he walked into was the class of '92. Scholes, Giggs, the Nevilles, one of the most gifted collections of young players football had ever put in one room. Beckham stood out even in that company, not because of his pace, not because of his power, because of his right foot. Deadly accurate. Set pieces, long balls, pinpoint crosses that defenders could not get near. Sir Alex Ferguson looked at him and knew immediately. In 1996, at just 21 years old, Beckham scored from the halfway line against Wimbledon. The ball floated over the goalkeeper from 57 yards. The whole country lost its mind. That was the moment David Beckham announced himself to the world. He was not just a footballer anymore. He was the most recognizable young man in England. Sponsors, magazine covers, paparazzi everywhere he went. Then came France, 1998. England manager Glenn Hoddle publicly questioned whether Beckham's head was in the right place before the tournament. Because of his relationship with Victoria, he benched him for the first two group games. Beckham came back, scored against Colombia, earned his starting spot against Argentina in the round of 16. He was 23 years old. His first World Cup, his first knockout game, the biggest night of his career. 47th minute. Simeone fouled him, hard, then leaned down and tapped him on the back of the head while he was lying on the ground. It was a provocation, deliberate, calculated, and Beckham took the bait. He flicked his foot back and caught Simeone's calf. Barely any contact, but enough. Simeone went down like he had been shot. Red card. Beckham walked off. England lost 4-3 on penalties. Simeone later admitted it himself. Let's just say the referee fell into the trap. You could say, my falling transformed a yellow card into a red card. But in fact, the most appropriate punishment was a yellow one. Now here's the part. What happened the morning after? The Daily Mirror printed a dartboard with David Beckham's face on the front page. The headline read, 10 heroic lions, 1 stupid boy. Think about that for a second. England's biggest newspaper. A dartboard with a 23-year-old's face on it. But it did not stop there. Effigies of Beckham were burned and hung outside pubs across London. Death threats were sent to his home address. A radio poll in Manchester found 61% of fans did not want him to ever wear an England shirt again. English politicians called him out on live television. When he returned to Manchester United, he was booed at every single away ground in the country. Opposing players targeted him physically on the pitch, and the crowd cheered every time he hit the turf. Victoria Beckham later said publicly that she believed he was clinically depressed during this period. Beckham himself said he felt completely vulnerable and alone. He said the reaction was extreme, and that he was genuinely grateful social media did not exist at the time. Because, if it had, he said he does not believe he would have survived it mentally. Surely that was enough to break him. Surely nobody comes back from that. Right? Wrong. The 1998-99 season should have finished David Beckham. Instead, it produced something that nobody in football had ever seen before. He was booed at every away ground, every city, every stadium outside Old Trafford. The hostility never let up, and Beckham played like a man who had something to prove to every single person in every single crowd he walked in front of. United won the Premier League, the FA Cup, the Champions League, the first English club in history to win all three in the same season. Beckham scored 9 goals and provided 17 assists across all competitions. Named UEFA Club Footballer of the Year, runner-up for the Ballon d'Or and FIFA World Player of the Year. His crossing accuracy that season exceeded 75%. 1 year after his face was on a dartboard on the front page of a national newspaper, David Beckham was the best wide player on the planet. No cap. That is a straight-up legendary response to adversity. But here is the thing. The comeback was not finished yet, because England still had a World Cup qualifier to play, and Beckham had an appointment with destiny at Old Trafford. October 6, 2001, England vs. Greece. Final qualifier. England needed at least a draw to go straight to the 2002 World Cup in Japan and Korea. Greece led 2-1. The clock was running out. Stoppage time. Old Trafford is desperate. And Beckham, England captain now, placed the ball for a free kick. 93rd minute. The ball flew into the top corner. Old Trafford went absolutely crazy. England were going to the World Cup. Beckham wheeled away with his arms outstretched, and his face showed something that looked less like celebration and more like a man exhaling 3 years of pain in a single breath. But here's the thing. There was still one moment left. The only moment that could truly close this story. And it came in Sapporo, Japan, in the summer of 2002, against Argentina. Group stage. England versus Argentina. Beckham was now England captain. He had broken his foot weeks before the tournament and was not fully fit. 44th minute. Michael Owen was fouled by Mauricio Pochettino inside the Argentine box. Penalty. The responsibility fell to Beckham. Beckham placed the ball on the spot. He stepped back. He looked at the goal. And in that moment, surrounded by 35,000 people screaming at him, 4 years of abuse hanging in the air, he ran up. And then he scored. England won 1-0. Argentina were out. The same country that had ended his 1998 World Cup. The same fixture that had turned his life upside down. Handled. Clean. And Beckham said afterward, "It was just a moment of madness. When I look back at my career and I talk about regrets, I wish that incident would never have happened. But I then look at the flip side. If it hadn't happened, I might not have had the career that I had. I might not have been as strong as I was. So, I turned it into a positive." That sentence right there is the whole story. After 2002, Beckham kept building. Real Madrid signed him for $35 million in 2003 to join the Galacticos. Zidane, Ronaldo Nazario, Figo. He won La Liga in his final season at Madrid. He became the first Englishman to win league titles in 4 different countries: England, Spain, the United States, and France. In 2007, he signed for LA Galaxy in a deal reported at $250 million. The most talked about move in the history of American sport. Won the MLS Cup twice. Scored 20 goals. Made America take professional soccer seriously in a way it genuinely never had before. That straight up hit different over here. He retired in 2013. His final club was PSG. And in one of the classiest moves in the history of professional football, he donated his entire PSG salary to a children's charity in France. Every single cent. Then, he used his MLS expansion rights to build Inter Miami from scratch. In 2023, he signed Lionel Messi, the greatest footballer who ever lived, to play in South Florida. Because of a vision Beckham had. Because of a career built on refusing to let one tunnel in France be the final word on who he was. In 2025, King Charles knighted him. He became Sir David Beckham. 115 England caps. 17 goals. 59 times as captain. 6 Premier League titles. 1 Champions League. An empire worth hundreds of millions. Now remember where this story started. June 30th, 1998. Saint-Étienne. A tunnel. A 23-year-old crying. The Argentine bus driving past. Players banging on the windows. And then look at where it ended. Knighted by the King of England. Owner of a football club in Miami. The man who brought Messi to America. Sir David Beckham. The same man The same story started in that tunnel. He went from the most hated person in England to being knighted by the King of England. And the career that got him there started the night it almost ended. There is one last thing I want you to think about. Beckham once said if it had not happened, the red card, the effigies, the death threats, the dartboard, he might not have had the career he had. The humiliation was not the obstacle, it was the engine.